was it? There it is. What type of food could elicit that type of reaction? Filet mignon? Lobster? The controversial foie gras? Caviar, perhaps? Actually, this food is an ethnic dish, yet its 3 ingredients can be found in every kitchen in America. So what is it?
Schupfnudel.
Schupfnudel. Schupfnudel.
What is Schupfnudel? Schupfnudel is a type of dumpling or thick noodle that can be found throughout Germany, but is prevalent in southern German and Austrian dishes. It's similar to Italian gnocchi. From Bavaria to Palatinate to Odenwald, they are known by a variety of different names. Finger noodle, not because they look like fingers, because you use your hands to roll the noodles. Bubenspitze, which also translates to little boys' willies. You get the idea. The Schacht family has had Schupfnudel as part of their New Year's cuisine for as long as any living member can remember. Rumor has it that this tradition didn't originate from the Schacht line, but from another of the Germans on this side of the family tree, which included Schacks, Springles, Giesekers, Königs, Schnipperts, Freitags, among others. So pinpointing exactly where the tradition started has been difficult, though some of the geographical areas that have popped up have been Berlin, Bremen, Munich, Prussia, East Prussia, even Poland. The origin of the Schupfnudel is generally thought to have been during one of the most devastating times in European history, between 1618 and 1648, during the 30 Years' War. The war was initially considered a local war between Protestants and Catholics after Ferdinand II, a staunch Catholic, wanted to impose religious uniformity throughout his lands. Initially, by the Peace of Augsburg in 1555, Lutherans living in a Catholic-ruled state could continue practicing their faith, and vice versa. By 1617, Ferdinand had begun closing Protestant churches in Prague. Soon thereafter, there was a Bohemian revolt. In time, the Huguenots, the Danes, the Swedes, and the French became involved. There was widespread famine and disease, witch hunts, pogroms, and of course political consequences, which rearranged Europe's power structure. It wasn't until 25 to 40% of the population of the German states had been lost, and the signing of multiple treaties, also known as the Peace of Westphalia, did the war finally end. If we wanted to place sole responsibility of the war and the origin of our beloved noodles on one person, it would fall on the man who posted his 95 Thesis on the door of All Saints Church in Wittenberg exactly 100 years before the start of the 30 Years' War. That single act put into motion a course of events that would change Europe and the world forever. That man is, of course, Martin Luther. Bitteschön. During the war, Schupfnudel was believed to be a trooper's dish. They'd roll noodles out of water in their daily flour ration. After the potato was imported to Germany, then cultivated, the recipe for Schupfnudel began to evolve. The Schacht tradition utilizes 2 different batches that involve pork and sauerkraut. One with traditional sauerkraut, and one with brown sugar mixed in to create a sweet instead of savory dish. At its basic form, the noodles themselves call for just flour, salt, and water. Despite its simple ingredients, the making of the noodles is quite an involved process, which can take place over the course of a few days. There's no real concrete recipe to making Schupfnudel, and that's why some people think that there's some mystery or some family secret to the process of making the noodles. It's made by feel more than measurements. And here's the process.
The first day can be a long one. Depending on how many noodles are going to be rolled, this can take anywhere from 4 to 8 hours. We introduce our 3 ingredients together right from the beginning. How much flour to start off with is arbitrary. Whether it's 1 cup or 1 bag of flour, it should be mixed to a consistency so it doesn't stick to your fingers. Water and or flour is added to get to that consistency. When rolling the noodles, it's important to remove any pointy edges. When the noodles are eventually browned, any thin, pointy edges tend to burn. And this process goes on and on and on and on and on and on.
After a long day of making noodles, there's nothing better than having a beer.
Time for browning. It's important to put enough oil in the pan to cover the noodles. The temperature setting varies, but it should be high enough that it heats the oil fairly quickly and keeps it at a steady temperature. The noodles should be evenly distributed in the pan to allow for even browning. Occasional stirring might be needed. The first batch or two will take a little longer to get the oil to optimum temperature. But once it reaches that temperature, the time the noodles spend in the pan begins to decrease. Once the noodles have been browned, they are transferred into a colander to cool and drain. This is the most hectic time of the whole process, as each batch becomes faster and faster and faster. The final day of the process, and in this case, New Year's Day, the day the noodles will be eaten. The process starts in the early morning. Everything needs to cook for at least 6 hours. First, sauerkraut is added to the pots, along with some extra water. Water will be added as needed as water cooks off. Add salt, pepper, and mix. Second, prepare the pork. The pork should be cut into bite-sized chunks. Add the pork, stir, and place the lids on the pots. Some room is left for heat to escape to prevent boiling. The pork and sauerkraut will sit for a couple hours. Now the noodles are added. From this point on, it's important to stir every 10 to 15 minutes to prevent anything from sticking to the pan and burning. For the sweet noodles, brown sugar is added. How much brown sugar depends on personal taste. After cooking for 6 hours, the noodles, pork, and sauerkraut are ready for transport.
I think I started making noodles with my mom when I was about 10 years old. Looking back now, I probably made more of a mess than I made noodles. But over the years, I got much better at it. Mom was a great cook and a great teacher. The tradition continued after Mom had a stroke. It was up to me now to carry on the tradition. I had to make her proud. As our family grew, so did the noodle count. When a family member tells you they look forward to New Year's Day because it's their favorite meal of the year, it is quite gratifying. I know Mom and Grandma are proud.